Hello and welcome to today's episode, which is all about making Matzo Crack. It's the middle of April 2022 and next week is going to be Passover. If you've not come across it before, Passover is a Jewish holiday. I won't go into the intricacies of Judaic festivals, but I want to introduce you to Matzos. So these are, I guess they're like crackers really. It's unleavened bread, so it's like little flatbreads. You will see them in a second. And that's what we're going to be using in today's recipe. I've not made this before, but my mum's made it for me a couple of times. And it's, if you've had Millionaire's shortbread, so it's shortbread with caramel and chocolate on top, it's a similar principle to that, but using matzos. The recipe's been on my mind to try for a while because it's a delicious little treat. But quite often the supermarkets overstock for Passover, and then you can end up picking up a box of matzos for like 20 pence, which, I don't know, in the States is like 30 cents, something like that. So I thought, do this now, get it out the week after Passover. And then you can go and bulk buy and have Matzo Crack for the rest of your life. I'm hoping it's going to be a fairly quick and straightforward recipe. It's only a few ingredients. I'll run through those now. So I've got the all-important matzos. I'll be making the toffee layer with 220 grams of dark brown soft sugar, about a cup, 220 grams of vegan butter, again, about a cup or 2 sticks. I'll be melting 340 grams of dark chocolate to layer on top and then sprinkling with 110 grams or about a heaped cup of pecans and a little bit of sea salt. Got the oven preheating at 180 degrees C, which is about 350 Fahrenheit. And I'm going to start making the kind of toffee. Drop the butter into the pan and then tip in the sugar. Baking tray that I've lined with foil. I would strongly recommend doing that because otherwise your cleanup's going to be an absolute nightmare. And then I'm going to lay a sheet of greaseproof on top. I want to make sure that the foil completely covers the sides. The reason for the somewhat inappropriate name is that it's very addictive, but also made out of crackers. So this is a matzo. So it's really crunchy. They make a great little cracker for snacks, like a bit of cheese on top, vegan cheese obviously, but yeah, very tasty. And they've got sort of, there's a nice kind of toasty flavour to them. If you can't find any matzo, you could use saltines, if you're in the States, the little square crackers, or in the UK you could use maybe cream cracker, rich tea, if you can find the square ones. I've even heard of someone doing it with Rice Krispies. So yeah, you've got some options there. You just want something crunchy, crisp and fairly neutral in flavour. So we're going to line the tray with the matzo and then we'll start putting the squares in. It's kind of a bit of a jigsaw. Crack off a corner just to get it in there. Let's fill in any gaps if they appear. I don't know if I'm supposed to do this, but I'm just going to press it down because they're kind of a bit, they're not completely straight. So I've used about 3 matzo there. Let's look at the sugar. I'm going to give it a good stir. Going in with a whisk, just make sure it's not catching on the bottom or anything. Once it starts bubbling, we need to boil it for 3 minutes until it becomes thickened and gloopy. And be sure to whisk it frequently, otherwise it's just going to boil all over your stove and be an absolute mare to clean up. Keep whisking it, keep an eye on it, and then as soon as it's ready, we're going to pour it on the matzo. That's after 3 minutes, so I think that's about ready to go on the matzo. And then pour it over. Just spread it out, make sure everything's covered. And then I'll slide this into the oven middle shelf. I've veganized a recipe that I found on onceuponachef.com. I'll stick the link in the description for you. And it says to keep an eye every couple of minutes, just make sure it's not burning. If it does start to burn, I need to pull it out, drop the temperature, and then put it back in. In the meantime, I'm going to toast off those pecans in the air fryer. So I'll see you back in a moment. Once it comes out of the oven, all bubbly and amazing, we then need to sprinkle on the chocolate. And I'm just going to poke this down a little bit. Some liftage, but that's okay. It smells amazing. And then sprinkle on the chocolate. I've just chopped up like 3.5 bars of chocolate, but you can use chocolate chips as well. And then leave it for a few minutes for all the chocolate to melt. I wanted to say earlier and forgot, be really careful with this because it's hotter than the flames of Mordor. I've let the chocolate sit on there for a few minutes, but it's just not melting as much as I'd like. So I think I'm going to pop it in the oven for for like a minute, something like that, just to get it melty. I put it back in without the oven being on, but again, it's just not melting fast enough, so I'll just put it back on at 180 and I'm keeping a very close eye on it. So now I'm going to use a little spatula with a cranked handle, turned handle. I'm going to smooth the chocolate, hopefully. You do want it up on a cooling rack just so that the bottom can then lose heat as well. That's why I've got it on this little thing. Then I've got some Maldon sea salt flakes. Sprinkle those on. Got about like a teaspoon, something like that. You could probably use regular salt, but I think sea salt's just got a nicer kind of flavour, a bit milder. You want to work a little bit speedily, just so the chocolate doesn't get too hard to then receive the nuts. Then I'll add on the chopped nuts. I think I'm just going to kind of push a little bit down with a spatula just to get the nuts embedded in the chocolate so it doesn't all just fall off. So the Matzo Crack is all loaded and looking incredible. Now I just need to let that cool down for an hour and then it'll harden up into like toffee, and then the chocolate on top will be nice and set and hard again. It's time to crack the crack open. So it's set nice and solid. Yeah, and it's gone very toffee-like underneath, which is amazing. I'm going to try and cut it into sections. I don't know how well it's going to work. It might just sort of splinter into shards. I left it on the side for about half an hour and it was still quite gooey, the chocolate. So I stuck it in the fridge for 10 minutes and then that made it go kind of hard. So then I just pulled it back out and left it on the side again. It's about 2 hours later. I didn't want to leave it in the fridge too long because fridges are quite humid, and because there's so much sugar in here, I got a bit worried that the moisture level in the fridge would then soften the sugar, which was the exact opposite of what I wanted to happen. So I think I'm going to do it into 4 lengthways, see how that works. It will split quite well. You might just need to put the knife in and kind of score it and then go back over the top again. And then I'll split that in half. And then I think do those into 3. Yeah, so I think I'll do little squares about that size. These are all the little bits that kind of flaked off as I was cutting it. So I think I'm going to save that and stick it on a bowl of yogurt in the morning. That's going to set my day right up. So all my little squares are nicely cut and trimmed. The nuts are all sticking on there, they're not all dropping off, which is great. And then the underside, you can see a little matzo in there, covered in a layer of toffee. So it's a little bit greasy, so just be mindful of that, you know, putting it down on anything fabric or anything like that. Just, you know, be aware. You might get some grease stains if you put it on a, I don't know, like a napkin, that kind of thing. Eating time. That's ridiculously delicious. There's some really wonderful textures in there. You've got the kind of crunchy snap from the matzo, then the toffee's crunchy to start with, but as you start chewing it, it becomes, yeah, like a chewy kind of candy toffee type thing. Then the nuts have got another type of crunch. The chocolate, then as soon as that gets warm in your mouth, that starts melting and just becoming delicious. Ooh, it's not insanely sugary either, which is surprising. Because I use the brown sugar, it's also got another kind of dimension of flavour, so it's not just sugary sweet. It has got that rich kind of molasses flavour as well, which is really nice. In terms of variations, I'm not sure what would happen if you did it with white sugar. If I attempt it, I'm sure I will at some point, I'll add a note to the pinned comment, so keep checking back there. But you could do things like pistachio and barberries, which are like a little dried berry that are kind of tangy, really nice flavour. Could put some white chocolate on there and streak that, so you've got a like marbled, pretty kind of finish on the top. You could do cocoa nibs. You could put coffee in the chocolate. The ingredients that I used for the chocolate salami, they would be really good as a topping on there. So that was pretzels, dried apricots, dried orange, almonds, that kind of thing. They'd be gorgeous in there. Yeah, that's endlessly customizable, which is my favorite kind of food. For more sweet treats and delicious goodies, hit subscribe, tap the bell icon, have a look at this one.